Welcome. I'm your host, Ham Gritty. The purpose of this report is to determine if your favorite movie characters have what it takes to be the best. Simply put, we check their grit. And for today's grit report, we'll be looking at Avengement. Meet Kane Burgess, a grieving mama's boy turned escaped convict. He's quite thirsty after working 3 policemen in a hospital elevator and decides to head to a members-only club called the Jockey for a pint. While enjoying his beverage, probably warm, he overhears a couple of men discussing an odd story. Well, Kane doesn't exactly like the tune of it, so he holds them at gunpoint while he tells them a story of his own. Kane recounts a day that he went to his loan shark brother, Lincoln, with a business proposition. His brother, being upset that he didn't throw a previous fight, doesn't want to lend him the money, but he will under one condition. He has to steal a package from a woman. This doesn't seem like the smartest way to use his talent. Still, Kane reluctantly agrees. This task sounds simple, but things go horribly wrong and it lands him in HMP Belmarsh. This is the filthiest, most violent, and godforsaken prison in England. Here he is promptly jumped by 4 men, stabbed, and American history X'd. He hopes that Lincoln will get in touch, but he never does. So Kane decides that he will tough it out in prison alone. Over the years, he is constantly attacked by other inmates and is forced to retaliate. This extends his sentence, and it all has a compounding effect. He becomes a pit bull. While having a little scuffle in the courtyard, Kane discovers that his brother Lincoln is the reason that he's been getting attacked while at HMP Belmarsh. It angers him even more to the point where he welcomes the attacks by the other prison mates. This leads to him being disfigured when one inmate pours hot liquid on his face. Don't worry, he promptly works this dude. To make matters worse, the prison committee extends his sentence even more. Now everything starts a chain reaction. Another fight, more time. A small riot, more time. He kills an inmate, more time. Kane eventually even starts to work correction officers. So that's overtime, right? More time. This new, unrecognizable Kane, animalistic, is far from the man who entered Belmarsh, and it breaks his poor mother's heart to see him this way. She comes to visit him to talk about her cancer diagnosis, and that's how he ended up in the hospital. See, Kane was granted supervised leave in order to see his mom. Unfortunately, she passed away before he could get to her. So after dealing with his escorts, he takes this moment to catch up with Lincoln and the old crew. The same crew that he's been telling the story to. Presently, he's holding them hostage until his big brother arrives. Lincoln finally arrives. He enters the Jockey with the crew of 3 other men, and Kane immediately disarms them of their weapons and their mobile phones. Lincoln tries to sweet talk his little brother, but Kane sees right through the bullshit.
You think I'm gonna fall for that, do ya?
It comes to light that Lincoln sent prison hitters to hurt his little brother because he thought that Kane would testify about his shady loan shark practices. This further enrages Kane because he kept his mouth shut over the years, and he has just discovered that a police sergeant misled Lincoln in the first place. But all is well because he squelched that sergeant on his way to the Jockey. What unfolds next is a very brutal bar fight full of melee weapons and ketchup. You can almost feel the punches landing. Seriously, this fight lasts forever. If you're a fan of Scott Adkins, watch this fight scene. The story ends with a bloody Kane smiling at the thought of his successful revenge, but more importantly, his avengement. So, does Kane Burgess have grit? It's implied that Kane was already a fighter, but to enter prison and immediately hold up against a meathead and 3 others with knives takes a remarkable amount of gumption. To continually put up with that abuse for a 7-year prison sentence, then evolve into a predator, is even more impressive. He could have just folded, told on his brother, and stayed safe until his release. Now hear me out. I wouldn't steal from an old lady, but it takes some cojones to snatch a person broad daylight. And Mabel was about that smoke. She came after that dude. Plus 150. Even after goons kept coming, Kane kept training and trying to defend himself in order to escape and get his revenge. After all the dust settled, he was content with being forgotten in history. That speaks volumes. Plus 40. Kane Burgess wasn't too wise in his decision to mug Mabel. This caused him to lose everything and sent him on a path to self-destruction. I hear that Dana White's hiring, bud. Use those talents elsewhere. Minus 10. Kane had an end goal in sight and didn't waver. He was tenacious in his plan to ruin his brother, and in the end, he did just that. After his escape, he made a list, checked it twice, and found out who wanted to work weekends and nights. Plus 20. This means that after starting with a universal base of 40 grit and an additional 200 grit, Kane ends up with a total of 240 grit, meaning he's a mighty fine young lad. That's it for this grit report. Was this an accurate report, or do you think we missed something? Comment below, and if you want to see more content like this, just say so. I'm your host, Ham Gritty, and until next time.
Well, so-and-so owes us a little money, and he's in line for a little dolting. But if you run us this little errand, we'll let him off.
Hey, wouldn't it be awesome that if, as a side gig, this police captain teamed up with Kane to go after Lincoln's uncollected debts?